26 degrees Celsius here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily, your daily dose of sunshine. I'm Maokbe Ogun Yusuf.
Well, it was a very heavy rain. There was a very heavy rain in Lagos yesterday. Maybe that is why we now have 27 as opposed to the 28 degrees we had yesterday. Today is 29, the 29th day in the month of October 2025. I'm Ayo Makinde. Welcome to the show.
Well, we do know, Ayo, in Abuja that the rains are saying a gradual goodbye, but yesterday we were still blessed with some showers. So every little drop of rain we get now, we'll hold on to it, because if the sun that has shone a bit is anything to go by, we know that we're going to be in for a very hot season. But speaking of hot, it does appear that Enugu State is right now in the spotlight. And a number of people are saying, wow, we didn't know that this much work was going on in Enugu. But recently, just yesterday, Budget, yes, that non-governmental organization which looks at the state of accounts amongst all the states, says that Enugu has now joined a very exclusive and elite list. The states that can survive only on the internally generated revenue that they make. So this is the news that has just come from the latest budget report on the state of the states. It's emerged as Nigeria's most fiscally viable subnational government, according to Budget's 2025 State of the States ranking. Ayo, it might interest you to note that this report is coming on the heels of a current constitutional amendment currently ongoing, proposing an additional 6 states, one in each geopolitical zone of the country. Some states are pushing very strongly.
Well, we'll definitely come back to you, Mark, but one very, very interesting thing that you have raised, the exact emotion, the exact sentiment that I had, is that when we are thinking of additional states, right, particularly in the southeast, the entire geographical property that houses the states, all the states in the southeast, is not as big as Oyo State. That's one. Now, secondly, now we have seen that 2 states in the southeast, Enugu State has been seen as the likeliest to survive without IGR. Of course, there are 5 of them. Lagos is one of them, and 3 other states. But now that we are talking of additional states, are these parameters in play, or are they at play? Are they in consideration when we are asking that additional states be created? It's just a question right there. Oh, well, we will definitely come someday, Malcolm, to the substantive issues that the report has raised, and I'm really hoping that one way or the other we'll be able to look at that report, analyze it, and let people really understand what is going on. Unfortunately, even on that list, we have states that are least likely in reverse. In that same document that is being shared, that everyone is looking at, we have also identified, the state also identified states that are least likely to survive without IGR. And one of those states, I find it very, very curious that we had 1 or 2 states at the bottom of that list. Kebbi and Yobe recorded negative IGR growth. Ebonyi, Bauchi, and Benue also posted weak performances. And one is wondering exactly what are the things, the considerations that go into analyzing whether or not one state can survive when they are created or not. For those who are advocating that Oyo State should be split, what is the capacity of this other states to survive? Is it even likely, Mark, that in one way or the other, we can actually sit down and audit all 36 states and say, okay, these ones haven't survived, they haven't done quite well, these ones, they can do well. Can we merge these two the same way we do in organizations, or these two departments? Maybe we should bring them both together. And at these states, they are not doing all. Is it just political considerations? Don't we think about economic considerations? Don't we think about sustainability in creating these states?
Big question, Ayo. I want to believe that this report of budget will be seen as a wake-up call by a lot of the states to see what the state of their own state is, and to, to see how they can rev up, not to the detriment of the people, because I want to believe that whenever it is IGR is raised, it's because the people are prosperous. They are prospering in the state, and as a result can pay taxes to the government in that state. So let us hope that it will serve as a wake-up call to a number of the states to see how it is that they can see to the prosperity of their people and maybe raise more taxes as a result of what they're currently saying. But Ayo, certainly something for us to ruminate about or ruminate on. We will take a break. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at one of the factors that makes a state viable, which is security, because a number of people have said without security, the economy is gone. And we know that only recently, new service chiefs were appointed by the president. So we'll wait and see. The Senate has shifted the screening of the service chiefs to next week, without which it would seem it might make it a little difficult for them to resume work. But we know that a meeting also held on Monday. So we'll delve into what exactly the agenda will be for them when we return from this break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. We're looking at the new appointment of the service chiefs. You saw a congratulatory message during the break. Yes, indeed, Nigeria now has new service chiefs appointed. They are awaiting screening and then confirmation by the National Assembly, after which there will be a decoration ceremony and then they can resume office. Or maybe, but let's confirm from our guest here, Major General Ishola Williams, who is retired, is a former chairman, Nigerian chapter of Transparency International, and also former commander, Army Signals, and also former commander, Training and Doctrine at Stradoc. Thank you so much for joining us in our studios this morning. Oftentimes when we speak with you, we're always speaking with you virtually. So it's good to have you in our studios. Good morning and welcome.
Yeah, it's good to see you without a visa.
We can never cancel yours. Oh, well, look at what is happening right now. On Friday, we got news of this appointment. Yes, of this appointment of new service chiefs. So some people, they said it took them by surprise. Others say, oh, it's routine. This, according to the new terms and conditions of service, service chiefs serve for an average of 2 years, and after which it is the president who determines if their tenure will be extended or if they will be told thank you and new service chiefs appointed. For you, how did it come to you, the news of the new service chiefs?
You know, I think it is something that is normal in every country in the world. If the commander-in-chief feels at any time that the service chiefs are not performing, or any one of them is not performing, he has all the constitutional right and power to change them. I do hope that the situation we are in is not because there are rumors of a coup, you know, and that if that sort of thing could happen under them, it means they are not taking care of what they are supposed to be taking care of. And I also believe, too, that if it were for non-performance, with respect to the insurgency that is still going on, because nearly every week, Governor Zulum is always crying about Boko Haram, ISWAP, you know, and what they are doing in Borno State, especially. Okay? And we don't seem to be succeeding in getting an end to this insurgency. 15 years. And maybe we are going along with what General Buratai has predicted, that the insurgency will go along for forever. But then, if it were, how many years should service chiefs serve, and when they should come and when they should leave. I don't think that has been constitutionalized, really. Because after all, under Buhari, they stayed for over 6 years before they were changed. Okay, so maybe that is what Senator Ali Ndume is trying to do with the new bill that he has presented, because they are going to look at the whole issue of armed forces bill, and what are the powers of the president, the chief of defense staff, and the service chiefs. Okay, I do hope that they will look at the example of South Africa. You have a wonderful, articles concerning the armed forces, concerning the relationship between the armed forces and the Ministry of Defense, concerning the relationship between the Ministry of Defense and the presidency, okay, and looking at the whole ecosystem of the security architecture in this country. That is what is needed, and that is what is still missing up till now. So you keep on changing service chiefs, they come into the same system, they do their own bit, go, the situation has not changed. In fact, if you look at it as an observer, what you discover is that it appears that both the safety and security situations are not improving at all. Unfortunately, like I keep telling people, they do not differentiate between safety and security. Nigeria is secured. Nobody's attacking Nigeria. But public safety is our problem. And it's an internal problem that we are not facing squarely.
When you say nobody is attacking Nigeria, do you mean in terms of its territorial integrity, in terms of a conventional war? Because if you speak within military circles, they'll tell you Nigeria is at war. However, I mean, safety, when you talk about safety, I think it's very important for you to define very clearly what it is you mean. When you say safety, what comes to my mind are things like accidents on the road, drowning incidents, as we've seen, tanker spillage, losing people carelessly in situations we could avoid. Is that what you're referring to? Or are you referring to things like Boko Haram, bandits, kidnappers? Are those matters of safety?
Yeah, safety issues, because the people you are talking about are citizens of your own country. They are not coming from all these stories about some people coming from outside, and it's a lie. Big lie. We have a safety problem in this country. When embassies want to make an announcement, they tell you that don't come to Nigeria because Nigeria is not safe. They don't say because Nigeria is not secured. Security means that somebody is coming from outside to come and attack you. So if you have problems on your border, something is wrong with you and your relationship with your neighbors. Take Niger, for example. The people who are sharing borders with Kano are Hausa people. Kano people are Hausa. Is it Hausa from Niger that you attack Hausa in Kano? Common sense, logic.
But we cannot isolate Nigeria from the, from some of the incidences we've seen in other African countries. So, for instance, in Central African Republic, the insurgency that is currently happening there, the insurgency in parts of Mali, the incidents that happened in Libya, and the fact that, our borders have been porous to many of these non-state actors who can come into our country or have been alleged to come into our country to cause trouble.
The whole thing is a joke.
Is it?
It's a big joke. Mali, today, for example, Mali has closed the schools for 2 weeks. Why? The jihadists in Mali have blocked the road for transportation of fuel into the capital, into other areas of Mali. Are those ones who will find time to come to Nigeria? The people in Niger are being opposed by the same jihadists. There's a linkage between Mali and Niger and Burkina Faso. They share the same common border. Okay? And those ones are jihadists. You have Boko Haram, which is a form of jihadist movement. ISWAP broke away from Boko Haram, which is a form of jihadist movement. These are people who are of the Kanuri ethnic group in Nigeria. They are the people of Kanuri ethnic group in Nigeria. And therefore, if you want to deal with them, like Mao Zedong says, if you have an insurgency, the insurgents are within a community. The community is the river. If you drain the river, the insurgents cannot swim like fish. But we are not looking at it like that. Therefore, if insurgency is still continuing in the Northeast, and most of the insurgents are Kanuri people, then what are the Kanuri people doing themselves? And I remember when the late Idris Deby led his army, a whole president, led his army to go and fight Boko Haram. Boko Haram said, no, we have no problem with you Chadians. It is Nigeria. It is Borno State. And you see that over the past 15 years, every time you hear in the South, oh, Boko Haram is a lie. They have never come across anywhere. Boko Haram concentrates in Borno State. They've been in Borno State for the past 15 years, and they know what they want. And all those people who are surrounding them too know what they want. Why is it that they are continuing? Why is it that they are getting support from some other people or something? Why is it that the armed forces are so weak against them? Those are the questions we need to ask and to answer, and we have answers to them.
Well, we do know that this Chief of Defense Staff, former Chief of Defense Staff now, General Christopher Musa, before he left, kept on, harping on the fact that, the solutions that need to be brought forward, the solutions that we need to end this, cannot be kinetic alone. He is harped on the fact that a lot more needs to be done in the non-kinetic area. A lot more needs to be done to end poverty. A lot more needs to be done to upgrade the living standards of the people. And it's unclear, if the message really got across to the political class as to what exactly, he was talking about. For you, as somebody who has seen this up front and, up close as well, what are your thoughts on some of the things that he said with regards to non-kinetic measures?
A governor in Zamfara put up a video to say that he is not getting the support he needs from security agencies. They should allow him to set up a state police, and within 2 months, he will take care of the problem. What does that say to you? Which means that there's a disconnect between the people and the security agencies. And therefore, we have heard so many stories that sometimes the security agencies collude with the bandits and criminals. Now, what is important for us is this step. Separate criminality from insurgency. Let the armed forces face insurgency. Let the armed forces not start running after kidnappers in Kwara State or bandits in Zamfara.
And they connected.
The paramilitary police was created. The paramilitary police was created as the mobile force, as a paramilitary police. And what do you call it paramilitary? To be able to take up what the military does not need to do. The military is doing what they did not need to do right now. And everybody just keeping quiet. What is the paramilitary police doing? You put paramilitary police together under the police. The IGP is very happy. He has policing, he has paramilitary policing. It's not his job. Separate policing from banditry and so on. And once you can do that, by creating state police, and in some countries, in fact, not only do you have a state police, you have police commandos too, so that they can solve some of the problems within the state when it comes to banditry and something like that. Some people come up with the argument that, oh no, you give them, the governor will control them. Why not? You say the governor, according to his constitution, is the chief security officer. Why is he not supposed to have the power to control security agencies in his own state? In every federal system, you must have this 3-tier public safety system. You must have this 3-tier public local government, state, federal. In the case of federal, you don't need policing at the federal level. You don't need policing at all, because public safety is bottom up. If your village, my village is safe, Nigeria will be safe. Nigeria will be safe. It's as simple. It's logical.
I know that
policing from insurgency.
I know that my colleague Ayo has questions for you as well. Ayo.
Thank you, Mokwe. General, you know, one of the indirect consequences of decisions
I cannot hear you.
is, I hope you can hear me now, General. 'Cause one of the things that a number of people, particularly ex-soldiers, are saying is that in a way the federal government may be demotivating the people that you are asking to go do the needful now, particularly with the HTACOs, that's the harmonized terms and conditions of service for military officers. And some of them for officers enlisted and enlisted personnel in the Nigerian Armed Forces. Now, on the one hand, they're saying that for all of the things that they're going to get, bulletproof vehicles for each one of them, backup vehicles, lifetime medical and assistance and all of that. Some of them are saying, look, why are you doing that for all the people who are officers of the Nigerian Army, and you're not really paying attention to the junior officers? That, in a way, it could be demotivating those who are at work right now. What are your thoughts? Go ahead, General.
Actually, what he was asking is that the welfare of those at the bottom doesn't seem to have been looked after. You know, there have been allegations that those at the top want to do things to favor themselves. So what exactly needs to happen for, you know, whatever reforms are being done at the top to really trickle down and those at the bottom looked after?
No, I think what's also missing in our own system is that every organization is supposed to have what we call an inspector general. What does that person do? Is to look at how the system in that organization operates. So if there are complaints, for example, that inspector general will pick it up and make sure that that system is, corrected. Now, we have had the armed forces. I've always been wondering, how does the commander-in-chief knows how everything is going on well in the armed forces? How does he know? How does he know? It's impossible. Whereas it's an important sector that you must have somebody, apart from the Ministry of Defense, who will be inspecting the armed forces every year and submitting a report. And even the whole system of the security agencies in Nigeria, the same thing. The same mistake we're also making is that, see, we separated police from the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs is supposed to be in charge of domestic security, domestic safety. Every agency that's supposed to do that should come under the Ministry of Internal Affairs and coordinated. What has happened is that, leave the custom out. Custom is a revenue generating agency. Give it to the Minister of Finance.
That's where it currently is.
That's what it should be. But it's under the Minister of Internal Affairs. You get my point? But leave the custom to the Minister of Finance. Get immigration, police, civil defense. Now they created forest security, something now. You bring all those funds because they are part of your domestic security. You bring them. Okay. There must be an inspector general. Okay. Then you now have the armed forces under the Ministry of Defense. Have an inspector general of the armed forces who report directly to the commander-in-chief.
An inspector general of the armed forces.
Thank you, ma'am.
Isn't that the role of the chief of defense staff?
Good. The whole role of the chief of defense staff, like they call it, chief of defense staff to the president. He commands the armed forces in some countries, but maybe the new bill will change that now. He commands the whole armed forces. That is Inspector General of the armed forces checks whether the chief of defense staff and service commanders are doing their job and reports to the commander-in-chief. When it comes to operations, chief of defense staff, That's what they call Chief of Defense Staff to the Commander-in-Chief. When it comes to checking whether they are doing their job, that is Inspector General of Police.
That's like an auditor of sorts.
Pardon?
Is it the Inspector General whom you speak of will be like an auditor of sorts?
Thank you. It's a sort of an auditor of the armed forces. Okay. In fact, in the past, in the 80s or so, what used to happen is that every year, there's always check, not only of the armed forces, but all the ministries, to check every position, what is that person doing? Why do you have this organization? Why do you have this section? If they are not necessary, they scrap them. Nowadays,
just to confirm, though, the Customs Service is actually with the Ministry of Finance.
When you come to the welfare of all these things,
yes,
it will be detected early enough, and then correction can be taken. Corruption is everywhere, so it's also in the armed forces, and nobody seems to want to do anything much about them because of impunity in Nigeria. There's serious impunity. When
I asked you about the appointment and what you made of it, on the one hand, you said it was routine. On the other hand, you said, you know, it's coming on the heels of these rumors of a coup, which the military has denied very vehemently, even though they do not deny the arrest of, you know, certain soldiers, senior officers included. But they have said that that has got nothing to do with a rumored coup. As someone who has served, you know, within the armed forces in very important offices, what is your conclusion, or what would I say, what is your analysis of these denials? Is it something you buy? Is it something you think, well, we're not going to get a confirmation, certainly not from military headquarters?
No, see, we've got to look at what's happening all over Africa now. Mm-hmm. We are coming back to the 60s and 70s when coups were common all over Africa. And we've all known over this period of time that in Africa, there are no opposition parties. There are no opposition parties at all. Even what's happening in Nigeria today too, where everybody is joining APC. At the end of the day, where is the opposition? Okay. So in nearly every country in Africa now, the military is the opposition party.
The military?
Yes. The military is the opposition party. Why? Because when there is a coup d'etat, people go into the street and rejoice. Why? That is why AU, ECOWAS, they are helpless when there are coup d'etats. People have gone into the street. Take the case of Madagascar now. The Constitutional Court sworn in the colonel to the president of the country. Constitutional Court, which makes it legal, and on the people's side, legitimate. So when you have that sort of situation, it is because the opposition party is missing. Now, the second thing is that the presidential system of government is bad for Africa. Very bad for Africa, very bad for the control of the armed forces. Why am I saying so? When you look at the parliamentary system, or what South Africa has, it's a mixed parliamentary and presidential system. People do not know that the people of South Africa do not elect the South African president. It's elected by the parliament, just like a prime minister in UK. And the parliament can also remove the majority vote. Not the impeachment process that we copied from the United States. The level of accountability in that system is always very important too. Okay, and when it comes to the control of the armed forces or police, so look at UK that gave us independence. There's no federal police in the UK. None. Every county has its own county police. Why are they doing that? Again, it gives power to those at the county political level to be able to control and make sure that they are safe. Safety is always bottom up, and it goes along with your political structure. Okay. The second thing also is that when you see any country that is doing well, there's a form of what we call in Nigeria resource control. But that's what we call subsidiarity. Subsidiarity in form of, if they find gold in my area, the gold belongs to the people in that area. It does not belong to the whole of the country. What will happen now is that the people of that area get the gold, they share the revenue with the rest of the country that they belong to. If you have that sort of system, who wants to do a coup? If you do coup in the central, the people in the state will say, what's our business with you?
Well, the military has constantly maintained that they remain apolitical and that they always fare better under a democratic system. I'm just saying, I'm just asking, you know, given what you know and what you've seen over the years, whether this is something that you buy in terms of how the military has denied, you know, these rumors.
No, it is because, again, when you look at political parties in Africa, there are no political parties, except countries like ANC, I mean, South Africa, where they came from for the past 100 years and things like that. There are no political parties in Africa. You know why? A group of individuals or one person has enough money to control the whole party. So when they come to primary, what do you see? It is not manifesto. It is money that determines who becomes the candidate. In that sort of system, is that a political party?
So are you issuing a message of warning to Nigerian political leaders or the democratic leaders in Nigeria?
Yeah, if you see, again, I always tell people we are making a mistake in the whole of Africa. You see everywhere, universities, this one, that one, Center for Leadership Training, Center for Leadership something. It is not true. We have a followership problem in Africa. We have a followership problem. Why? Why should you go and give somebody 5,000 naira and then that person will vote for a crook? And then you come and complain later. You cannot complain. So your problem is followership, not leadership. I saw one big conference one time, they said leadership forum. What are you leading? What are you leading? In every system in Nigeria, corruption. Where the leadership? And it's because people do not talk. It's because people do not talk. Anywhere you have a lacking followership, no. Like another organization, why do they have trade union? The essence of trade union is to have the collective interest of the people for any company to be run. In fact, a place like Germany, trade unionists have members on the board of every company in Germany. Trade unionists have members on the board. Listen, our problem in Africa is followership.
So what solutions are you proposing?
First of all, I will concentrate on enlightening followership in Nigeria and tell people the power belongs to you. It's a mistake for you to believe that the military is going to save you. In the military, there are many crooks too, like you have among the politicians. I don't call them politicians, they are politicians. So you have the same in the military too. And therefore, the power rests with you through a good political party system that you control. And I've always been asking the young people in our country, especially those below 50 years of age, how come that you allow old people like me with money to dominate your party when majority of you who are below 50 are the majority members of that party? You must be hustlers.
Well, certainly, I think that's one advice that we all can broadcast. We have to thank you very much this morning for coming on our program. Major General Ishola Williams, retired, is a man of many parts, is former chairman, Nigerian chapter of Transparency International, a former commander, Army Signals, former commander, Training and Doctrine, and also former chief of Defense Training and Planning. And it's been a pleasure to have you in our studios. Thank you so much for coming on, General. Well, that's where we'll wrap up this particular segment. We'll take a break. Yes, we know that conversation started on our sister program, Morning Brief, but we'll be looking at sports development in recent times, especially in the light of new revelations from FIFA FIFA fund mismanagement. In just a moment, don't go anywhere. Please stay with us.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us. Our next conversation this morning is, as Malcolm mentioned earlier, is no less disturbing. Even though, as of course she said earlier, we have had a conversation around that from our sister program earlier in the morning, and talking about the FIFA and CAN money that is alleged to have been mismanaged. The questions abound, particularly now that the House of Representatives is promising that they are going to probe what is going on. We understand from the sister program, you may want to go to our YouTube to find out, that there are certain things that are just no-nos. When a FIFA or a CAN sends you a grant, they do not send directly to any agency or body that belongs to a country. They send to the fellow or the consultant or coordinator or contractor who is supposed to get the job done. Now, the question is, who has a case to answer? It's one question mark that I've asked since this whole conversation started, particularly listening to Mr. Ibitoye earlier. Does NFF have a case to answer? That and many other questions I'm sure you have for our guest, Malcolm.
Indeed, Ayo. Well, we're going to start with this track from Honorable Lumuyiwa Adedayo, who's the representative of Apapa Federal Constituency, who raised this matter on the floor of the National Assembly.
The House will further recall that between 2015 and 2025, NFF allegedly received developmental funds in excess of USD 25 million from FIFA and CAF, with nothing tangible and commensurate on the ground to justify the humongous capital inflow from these two continental and intercontinental soccer bodies. Further recall that in December 2016, FIFA sent an audit query to NFF over the misappropriation of the $1.1 development grant to NFF. And it was reported that $802,000 lacked proper documentation. The House therefore resolves, 1, to set up a special investigative audit committee to look into the activities and accounts of the Nigerian Football Federation from 2015 to date. 2, invite the leadership of NFF, both parts are present, to appear before the Special Investigative Committee with records of activities, receipts, and disbursements from 2015 to date.
Well, this morning we have in our studios Alajigara Gombe, who is a former chairman, Gombe State Football Association. He holds many portfolios, but let's just say he's very interested in sports development in Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Sunrise Daily.
Thank you, Mafe. It's good to be here once again.
You've heard the representative there in terms of the steps that they want to take in light of recent development and the recent allegations. $25 million contributed or given by FIFA and CAF over a period, and then they want to do a special audit probe. What do you think it's going to yield?
Well, Mafe, thank you so much, and I thank the Federal House of Representatives for waking up from their slumber. This matter of accountability, not only in NFF but generally in sports, has been a recurrent decimal that many of us have been called names because we have been shouting, we have been talking for over 25 years calling for accountability. On the issue of FIFA funds, this is not even the period they are quoting from 2015 to 2025 is a short period. They should go back to as far back as 1986 from 1986 to date.
So it's not far enough.
What?
It's not far enough. I mean, 1986 to date is a long time. It's almost 40 years.
Yes, exactly. So it is not the very first time. It is just now that some interest groups, some stakeholders have started to point fingers, perhaps because losing out, or there are certain things that are after, or there's a conspiracy theory that is going on. That's why people are now talking. But we have been saying it, that these FIFA funds needs to be accounted with the $802,000 that the Honorable quoted, which was true. I remember a serving minister in this country, when FIFA came and audited the account and they found that $800,000+ was not accounted for, I alerted the minister. I said, are you aware that FIFA were in Nigeria auditing the accounts of the NFF? He said he didn't know. He said, what happened? I laid my hands on the audit report of FIFA, and he's going to send a query to the NFF. Before he even sent the query, he then called me and said, did you discuss this with anybody? I said, no, I did not discuss. Ask your office. It perhaps must have leaked from your office. Somebody must have told them that query is coming, so you better reply. This is it. In the reply, they said that the $800,000+ that were not missing, that were unaccounted for by FIFA themselves, the money came through central bank. And they said in their reply that if they collect that money from central bank direct, central bank would give them the naira in official rate, so they would lose money. So they took the dollars out from central bank, took it to zone 4, change it and get more naira. It ends there. I then asked, okay, fine, if they got the more naira, where does the naira goes to? So FIFA in their report said that they cannot account for where all this money is to. And guess what happens, madam? Less than 3 weeks, the wife of the minister died. These same people, he called me himself and said, your people came. I said, who? He said, NFF. He said, what happened? They came and donated 20 million to the burial committee of the wife, another 5 million to buy casket. And I said to him, why did you collect their money? Tell the burial, he said they paid the money to burial committee. I said, tell the burial committee to send it back to them. He said, look, Gara, your problem is that how do you choose who cries for you when you are bereaved? A minister. So what I'm trying to say is that it is a complete change of conspiracy. It's in the National Assembly, it's in the presidency, it's in the Ministry of Sports, Supervising Authority, and it's also in the NFF.
I know Ayo has questions for you on this one. Ayo, quickly.
Well, thank you, Mark. You know, just one or two things. Question is, does the NFF have a case to answer in this case? What are your expectations from this probe? Because we understand that NFF does not receive the money directly from FIFA or from CAF. When they have a project, they send it to the fellow who is supposed to get it done. So give us perspectives.
Yes, NFA has a case to answer, and not only NFA. The National Assembly, who have oversight functions, the stakeholders, and even the media who are supposed to be working on the interests of the public, to inform the public. The media also are part of this charity. They are supposed to inform the public. But then, we have not even asked them to account for money we have given them. We are asking them to account for money they got from outside the country. The starting point should be the money we have even given to them. Not only the money they have collected from outside. Let me tell you what is going to happen. They may say, you didn't give us this money, you have no right to ask questions about it. And it ends there, and that will what is going to happen. The starting point should be the money we have given over time. We have a former president of the Federation that has built a very big factory in somewhere in Ibadan. Nobody asked him a question, where did he get that money? The ICPC or some leadership of Nigerian football mark their houses, seize the properties, and the matter ends up there. And today, some of them are still in charge of not only our football, but they're in charge of our sports. So there's a question, there's a question to answer. And I want to say, it is not only Nigerian football. All the 28 to 30 federations, including the Nigerian Olympic Committee, to go beyond NFA. All of them, the Nigerian Olympic Committee received subvention before the Olympics and after the Olympics from the International Olympic Committee. All of them receive money from their continental representation or affiliate bodies and also from the international affiliate bodies, IO. Okay. So we should go beyond football and go to other federations and ask them, how much have you received?
But let's start with one, Mr. Gombe. Yeah, let's start with one. So part of what the Lagos lawmaker who we heard speak earlier said was that there is a need to take decisive action on further misuse of public funds by the leadership of the NFF. And if we are to cascade this to other federations, in all honesty, what are the institutional framework that you think can prevent this so-called misuse of funds?
Yes. First, the institutional framework that I will look at, I've been conversing that we should have a transitional program of withdrawing from funding sports in Nigeria. Funding sports everywhere in the world, it is a private sector affair. In Nigeria, because all this in sports, we are getting free money. Remember the last Olympics, 20 billion the President Tinubu gave to us in sports. We did not account for it. We wasted it, we went to Olympics, we didn't come back with even a spoon. So this program, transitional withdrawal of government funding of sports, that's number one. Number two, the sports industry, those who receive money from the federation, especially the National Assembly, must make sure that their oversight does not only end in other sectors. They should come to sports and ask them, what did you do with this money? And force them to quarterly be publishing their own accounts. Do you know why private sector ran away from funding sports? Because there's no accountability, no transparency. Someone in this country collected in 2 years about 3 billion from super sports to manage this money with nothing to show, and super sport decided to withdraw from funding sports in Nigeria, our football. It happens, and the person is working freely. Rather, we are even promoting the person to manage our sports. It's there. Now, apart from that, Ayo, if you ask me, sports in Nigeria is being used as an opium of the masses. We are just accusing police, customs, and other places, calling them names for corruption. The most corrupt industry in Nigeria is Nigerian sports. And because we have never sent one person to jail. If we can use some people as an example and send someone to jail, then things are going to change.
So the House of Representatives has your full backing on this one? Of
course they have a full backing, but what I am saying, if it is just to witch hunt somebody, then I will not back it.
You think this is a witch hunt?
I think so. Why? Because why have they not spoken all this while? Only now.
What do you think you're trying to witch hunt?
The leadership, the present leadership. Because we have, in recent times, if you remember, if you look at my antecedents, I've been fighting for this same issue about accountability. I have been taken to court several times, but when I respond, they run away and leave the case in court. But recently, I have been seeing certain things that people have been asking or doing, even on social media, about the present leadership of Nigerian football. The immediate last leadership under Amaju Pinnick. Who was talking about corruption? Who was ever asked about FIFA funds? Most of the chunk of this money, this particular 800,000 that the honorable member raised, came during whose tenure? Was Amaju. And he's there working freely. We sent him to FIFA, he came back and he was bragging all over
the witch hunt for the current administration.
Of course, I want to say it is. If it's not a witch hunt, we should go beyond this period. We should start from Aminu Megari's time, or even before Aminu Megari. This money FIFA money has not started coming just now. Now they are building.
It's a 10-year period.
No, it's too small, madam. Let's go back.
Let's go back to 1986. Do you know what happened?
We'll see if the House of Reps takes that recommendation on board. But we have to thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. We wish you had a little more time. We're certainly out of time. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you.
Stegara Gombe is the former chairman, Gombe State Football Association, and former secretary, Nigeria Football Stakeholders Forum. Thank you so much once more.
Thank you.
Well, that's where we leave the program this beautiful Wednesday morning. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Business Morning is on the hour.